Imagine you are alive 30,000 years ago, somewhere near the edge of a cold forest where the trees end and the open grass begins. It is late at night. The fire is low, the wind keeps pushing smoke into your eyes, and the animal skins over the shelter are doing a very brave job of almost being walls. There is no hospital, no clean white room, no doctor, no emergency button, no flashlight, no antibiotics, no pain medicine. No one can call for help because phones have not been invented, and honestly, neither has the comforting idea of help arriving quickly. A woman in your group is giving birth. She is on the ground near the fire, breathing hard, gripping the arm of an older woman. Two other women are crouched beside her. One is heating water in a skin bag near the coals. Another keeps turning her head toward the darkness because something has been moving outside the circle of light for the last 20 minutes. The baby is coming, maybe. The mother is exhausted. The group is silent. Even the children understand that this is not the time to ask why the moon follows them. And here is the terrifying question. How did ancient humans survive this? How did generation after generation keep being born when birth itself could become a fight against pain, blood loss, infection, cold, hunger, bad luck, and one very badly timed predator? By the end of this story, childbirth will not look like a private medical event anymore. It will look like one of the oldest survival technologies humans ever built. Not made of stone, not made of bone, made of memory, hands, firelight, older women, scared men pretending to be useful, and a group that understood one brutal rule. If the mother and baby survived, everyone's future got a little larger. The strange thing is that humans were not designed like an easy birth animal. A horse gives birth to a foal that can stand fairly quickly. A deer can produce a baby that is ready to wobble away from danger. Human babies arrive like tiny, angry potatoes with lungs. They cannot walk, they cannot hide, they cannot even hold their own heads up properly. If you placed a newborn human next to almost any newborn prey animal, the prey animal would look like it had attended a survival course. And the mother is vulnerable too. During labor, she cannot run, she cannot hunt, she cannot defend herself well. She is in pain, losing energy, and depending on the people around her not to panic, not to wander off, and not to make the prehistoric version of a bad management decision, such as, maybe she wants privacy behind that bush with the leopard eyes. This is where the problem becomes worse than most people imagine. Modern humans tend to think of childbirth as dangerous mainly because we know hospitals exist. We compare birth with medical care to birth without medical care, and we immediately picture disaster. But for ancient humans, the danger was layered. Birth was not just one problem. It was a stack of problems happening at exactly the wrong moment. First, there was the anatomy problem. Human childbirth is unusually difficult compared with many other mammals because of a weird evolutionary deal. Our ancestors started walking on two legs, which changed the shape of the pelvis. Later, human brains grew larger, which meant babies had bigger heads. Add broad shoulders, a tight birth canal, and a baby that often has to rotate during birth. And suddenly, reproduction becomes less like nature's beautiful miracle and more like trying to move a sofa through a narrow cave entrance while everyone is crying. But here is the detail that changes everything. A human mother cannot always easily guide the baby herself. In many births, the baby emerges facing away from the mother, which makes it harder for her to clear the baby's airway, unwrap anything tangled, or help the shoulders without assistance. Other primates often give birth alone. Humans, very often, do not. Human birth became social. That means the first answer is not a tool. It is not a magic herb. It is not a secret cave hospital. The first answer is another person. Imagine the older woman beside the mother. She has seen births before. She has seen good ones, bad ones, fast ones, long ones, and the ones nobody wants to talk about afterward. She does not have a medical degree, but she has something ancient groups valued almost as much. She remembers. She remembers which position helped last time. She remembers when to tell the mother to squat, when to rest, when to move closer to the fire, when to drink, when to stop the curious children from standing directly in the worst possible place with the facial expression of tiny, traumatized owls. She remembers that cold is dangerous. She remembers that panic spreads. She remembers that blood matters. This is the part most people forget. In a world without written records, an experienced person was a library with knees. The older women of a group may have been among the most important survival systems humans had, not because they were magical, because they carried patterns. They had seen what worked often enough to repeat it, and what failed badly enough to avoid it. In a small band, that kind of memory could mean the difference between new baby at sunrise and a silent camp. And once you see childbirth this way, the whole group changes shape. The men might not be the ones directly helping with delivery, but they still mattered. Someone had to keep the fire alive. Someone had to watch the edge of camp. Someone had to keep predators away. Someone had to bring water, wood, skins, food, and space. Someone had to keep the group from moving on too soon. Because childbirth did not happen politely between calendar appointments. It happened when it happened. During rain, during hunger, during migration, during winter. During a bad week when everyone had already been eating the disappointing parts of an animal. A pregnant woman near birth could slow a group down. A newborn slowed it even more. That sounds like a disadvantage, until you remember one problem. Humans survived by being social. The group was the body armor. Alone, a mother and newborn were terribly exposed. Together, they had a moving wall of eyes, hands, weapons, and bad moods. And this is where fire enters the story. Fire was not a modern hospital, but for birth it was many things at once. It was heat, it was light, it was a warning sign to animals. It was a way to warm water, soften hides, dry bedding, and keep insects away with smoke. It turned a patch of dangerous darkness into a small circle where humans could pretend the universe was under control. Picture the camp again. The mother is sweating, then shivering. The baby, if born alive, needs warmth immediately. A newborn cannot regulate temperature well. In an Ice Age night, that is not a small detail. That is the difference between crying and fading. So the baby is placed against skin, covered with fur, brought close to warmth but not too close to flame, because ancient humans were smart, but still occasionally the species that invented stepping on sharp rocks barefoot. Warmth mattered, dryness mattered, shelter mattered. The first few minutes after birth were a race against cold. But fire had another role. It made birth visible. Without fire, birth at night becomes a problem of touch, guesswork, and terror. With fire, helpers can see the baby's position, see bleeding, see whether the baby breathes, see the mother's face. Fire was the prehistoric operating lamp, security light, heater, insect repellent, and emotional support candle all in one. Today, we buy separate devices for all of that and still complain when one needs charging. Then comes the tool layer. Ancient birth did not need a toolkit full of metal instruments, because metal was far in the future for most of human prehistory. But simple tools could still matter. A sharp stone flake could cut cord or plant fiber. A clean-ish hide could wrap the baby. A scraped skin could become bedding. A container could hold water. A cord of sinew or fiber could tie. A digging stick could help prepare a sheltered spot. None of this looks impressive in a museum case, but in the moment, a dry hide is technology. A sharp flake is technology. A safe corner of camp is technology. The danger, of course, was that clean in prehistory did not mean sterile. It meant better than the ground, better than dirty hands, better than a piece of rotten hide from the corner that everyone pretends they do not smell. Ancient people did not know germs the way we know germs. They did not have microscopes, but they were not stupid. They could observe that filth, Spoiled meat, bad smells, pus, and fever often went together. They could learn that washing with water, using fresher materials, keeping wounds away from dirt, and avoiding obvious contamination improved the odds. And here is where the story gets uncomfortable. Many lessons came from death. Trial and error sounds harmless when we say it in a classroom. It sounds like trying two kinds of soup. In prehistory, trial and error meant someone bled too much, someone got fever, a baby did not breathe. A mother survived one birth but not the next. The group remembered because forgetting was expensive. Over many generations, small rules could form. Do not give birth far from camp if it can be avoided. Keep the fire fed. Bring the older women. Keep the mother warm. Watch the bleeding. Help the baby breathe. Protect the quiet space. Do not let everyone crowd in. Do not move too soon afterward. Feed the mother. Let her rest. Were these rules the same everywhere? No. Human groups lived in forests, deserts, tundra, coasts, mountains, and grasslands. Their customs would have varied wildly. Some women may have given birth with only one helper, some with several. Some may have wanted privacy nearby, but not total isolation. Some groups may have used songs, repeated gestures, comforting words, or rituals. We cannot know every detail, but we can say this. Birth was not just biology. It was culture wrapped around biology, because biology alone was not always enough. Now keep this in mind because it matters later. A woman in labor is not only physically vulnerable, she is also socially central. She may be a food gatherer, a tool maker, a tracker, a storyteller, a sister, a daughter, a partner, a mother of children already alive. Losing her is not just personal tragedy. It is damage to the group's memory, labor, relationships, and future. This is why the community mattered after the baby arrived.
Modern people often focus on the dramatic moment of birth because it is easy to picture. But survival did not end when the baby cried. In some ways, that was when the long problem began. The mother needed rest. The newborn needed warmth and feeding. Bleeding had to slow. The placenta had to pass. Infection had to be avoided. The mother might be weak for days. If the group had to move, someone had to carry things she normally carried. Someone might carry the baby. Someone might share food. Older siblings might be watched by others. The fire had to keep going. The shelter had to hold. This is one of the most underrated human superpowers, shared childcare. Humans are not only mothers and fathers. We are aunties, grandmothers, older sisters, cousins, unrelated helpers, and random exhausted adults who get handed a baby because the mother needs both hands for 3 seconds. Anthropologists sometimes call this alloparenting, which basically means other people help raise the child. It sounds fancy, but the basic idea is simple. Human babies are so demanding that one person alone has a terrible deal, and this may have shaped us deeply. A newborn is not useful. It does not hunt, it does not gather, it does not contribute to camp security. It mostly makes noise at strategically dangerous times. If a predator is nearby, a baby crying is not a subtle communication strategy. It is more like a tiny alarm system designed by someone who hates stealth. And yet, groups protected babies anyway. They fed mothers, they carried infants, they tolerated the crying, the smell, the sleep disruption, and the general betrayal of peace. Why? Because human survival is long-term. Today's helpless baby could become tomorrow's tracker, toolmaker, firekeeper, storyteller, or the person who remembers where the water is during a drought. Here is a thing that actually happened. Archaeologists sometimes find ancient burials of infants, mothers, and babies that remind us how real these risks were. One documented Neolithic case from southern Vietnam has been interpreted as a maternal and perinatal death, meaning a mother and baby died around the time of birth. That is thousands of years after the Ice Age hunter-gatherer world, but it gives a hard, human shape to the danger.
This was not an abstract problem. It happened to real people in real communities who had to bury the evidence of a birth that went wrong. And there is also evidence from Upper Paleolithic infant burials, like the carefully treated infant burials at Krems-Wachtberg in Austria, that even very young babies could receive attention after death. We should be careful not to read modern feelings directly into ancient graves, but we can say this: prehistoric people were not indifferent machines. Babies mattered, loss mattered, the group noticed. That makes the successful births even more astonishing, because every adult you see in a prehistoric scene had already survived the most dangerous day of their life before they understood anything, before they could make a spear, before they could walk, before they could say mammoth. They survived because someone else did something right. Someone kept them warm. Someone cleared their airway. Someone protected their mother. Someone fed their mother. Someone carried them when the group moved. Someone did not abandon the slow, loud, fragile little creature that could not even thank them. And this is the dark twist near the end of the story. Childbirth did not just require society. It may have helped create society. Think about it. A species with difficult births, helpless babies, and long childhoods cannot survive on individual toughness alone. You need trust. You need repeated cooperation. You need people who help even when the benefit is not immediate. You need knowledge passed from old to young. You need social rules around care, food sharing, rest, protection, and responsibility. In other words, the problem of birth pushed humans toward being more human. The same traits that helped at childbirth also helped everywhere else. Memory helped with migration. Cooperation helped with hunting. Language helped with teaching. Fire helped with predators and cold. Older people helped the group avoid old mistakes. Shared care allowed mothers to recover, children to learn, and groups to keep moving. The birth scene by the fire is not separate from the story of human success. It is one of the places where the story becomes visible. And there is something almost unfair about it. A lion has teeth. A bear has strength. A wolf has smell and speed. A human mother in labor has none of those advantages. But she has a circle of people around her. She has fire. She has remembered knowledge. She has hands that can help. She has voices that can calm. She has a group willing to stand between her and the dark. That was not perfect. Many mothers died. Many babies died. We should not romanticize it. Prehistoric birth was not some beautiful natural spa experience with tasteful lighting and a playlist called Ancestral Calm. It was risky, painful, and sometimes tragic. But it was not chaos either. Ancient humans survived childbirth through layers. They used assistance from experienced women. They used fire for heat, light, and protection. They used simple tools and prepared materials. They used observation, memory, and repeated behavior. They used the group as a shield. They cared for mothers after birth. They shared the burden of helpless babies. And over time, they turned terrifying experience into culture. So the answer to how did ancient humans survive childbirth is not they were tougher than us. Although yes, they probably would be confused by our emotional collapse when the coffee machine says error. They survived because birth became a community event. A dangerous one. A fragile one. A moment where the whole group had to protect the future while it was still wet, loud, and completely useless at holding a spear. And that is the final strange truth. Humans did not conquer the Ice Age only by killing mammoths or making sharper tools. They also conquered it by kneeling beside each other in the dark, keeping the fire alive, remembering what the old women knew, and refusing to let the next generation arrive alone. So, the next time you see a newborn wrapped in a clean blanket under bright hospital lights, remember this. Somewhere far behind you, one of your ancestors entered the world beside a smoky fire, while terrified people listened for predators in the dark. And somebody helped, which is good, because without that person, you would not be here to complain that your phone charger is too short.